Hi, thanks for watching Talk Local on Rogers TV. I'm your host, Haley Zimak. Well, April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, but the quest for research funding and a cure is always ongoing. We'll speak about the many ways you can get involved in the months ahead and highlight one very successful event that is just wrapped up. With a high rate of Parkinson's in the region, we're asking you, should we be doing more in terms of research and funding? You can call us 519-893-6905. We're on Twitter as well at TalkLocalWR. You can email the show, talklocal@rogers.com. Joining us now in studio, we're very pleased to have Dr. Quincy Almeida, Director of Sun Life Financial Movement Disorder Research and Rehabilitation Center and Associate Professor, Faculty of Science for Wilfrid Laurier University. So thank you very much for your time this evening. Thank you for joining us. So let's talk a little bit, when you arrived in the region 8 years ago, what was the scene like here? How were people living with Parkinson's? How were they dealing and coping?
Well, we actually had the hint a long time before I even arrived in the region, specifically because my training was in Toronto and London and Hamilton, and in all of those three locations we always noticed this increase of patients coming from Kitchener-Waterloo region. And we used to feel bad for the patients that had to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours to get out to their appointments. So we were happy to set up shop right in the center of those three locations to make it easier for some patients in town.
And really, what does that do? I mean, how does that change everything from quality of life to ease and strain and just everything that kind of comes along with it?
Yeah, it certainly helps for the patients as well as the caregivers and families to know that there's some support locally. Some of our patients, even because we're built in what used to be a public school in the area, some of our patients are even able to walk into our center to access our facilities.
Sure, something that was completely unheard of just how many years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how many people do you see at the research center, kind of any given, if it's weekly or monthly or yearly?
We have grown very quickly. We started with just a few patients when we had first started, but we're now up over 850 patients in this area.
And that means like these are local patients, like 850, like Kitchener-Waterloo regional.
Yeah, and they're involved in different sorts of things. So some of the studies are exercise rehab based. And in that case, it involves people that come in 3 times a week, for example. In other cases, people might come from a little bit further away, even as far as other provinces and things like that, where they come in for a single visit, where it's an assessment once in 3 months or 6 months, or for a specific study.
Okay, so they come here from even out of the province because it's unique. It's something different.
Yeah, we're certainly different in the sense that we're not focused just on clinical treatment. You know, the potential to have access to new inventions that have come to us from across the world, to have access to exercise treatments, to different sorts of therapies, even basic science research. All of these things we've kind of built into the one facility to make it easier and more accessible for patients in our area.
And how important is that, not just for the patients, but for you and your colleagues as well? I mean, rather than it being scattered here and there, you kind of have this hub that really incorporates everything.
Yeah, lots of people call it the one-stop shopping place.
I like
because,
it. Okay.
Whether it's speech therapy or walking and balance or upper limb or cognitive function and memory, or like I said, rehab, there's lots of things all done in the one building, and it makes it very, very easy for the patients to be able to do all these things in the one spot.
And what's your primary role?
My primary role, well, I'm the director of the center, so I'm of course very involved in the research myself. It does focus on Parkinson's, but there's lots of different movement disorders that we try and deal with, and in all of those cases, the basic idea for us is to try and understand what causes the problems in the first place.
Okay.
And if we can get a better understanding of those basic science mechanisms that cause the movement impairments or the memory impairments, then we try and create the therapies right there on the spot so that the patients do have access to something to treat them immediately rather than waiting for something 5 years down the road to come out.
So in layman's terms, do we know yet then what causes this to happen? I understand there's no cure as of yet, but do we know a cause at least?
I wish we did. We're certainly looking into that in terms of research as well. So while we look at the underlying mechanisms of disease, we also, it would be one step better if we could even figure out what causes the disease. So we track our patients for genetic causes, environmental toxins that they could have been exposed to through work, lots of different things, and we collect all that data in case there's a need to be able to try and figure that sort of stuff out as well.
Okay, so this is really very intensive in terms of just research and tracking and talking and communicating and just really following up with, and is every individual patient, is it always something different that could lead to this, or different in the way that it affects them? And
well, it certainly is interesting from a research point of view, because in some cases you find some commonalities from people that worked in a specific area in town.
Okay.
In other cases, you see something very unique, but then you start to draw links to other potential jobs or other potential causes that might have similar exposures. Okay. So we learn lots every day.
Sure. So I guess if there's no set cause as of yet, that's something that's being worked on. You do know how it affects the body and the movement. So
yes,
if you could just outline that for us.
Well, Parkinson's itself is known for 3 or 4 primary symptoms. The tremor is the most common issue, although it doesn't happen in all patients. And the tremor most people describe as a resting tremor, which means that as your hands are sitting at a table, you might start to see the one hand shaking back and forth, or possibly both of the hands. And generally that tremor starts to disappear when you hold on to something. So if your hands are raised up in the air, that tremor disappears.
Okay.
In addition to that, there are other symptoms, general rigidity or stiffness. There's postural imbalance, instability, those sorts of things. So there's lots of different issues to deal with, volume of speech, quietness while talking, lots of different symptoms to deal with.
Okay, we will continue on our conversation here. You're going to stay with us in studio for one more segment, so we thank you for that. Thank you for watching at home so far. Again, if you'd like to get involved in our conversation, April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and a bit about the therapy and some of the things you're doing there at the Research Center.
So in talking about the symptoms, one of the major categories of symptoms is something called akinesia, which basically means lack of the ability to voluntarily control movement. And it leads to a very severe symptom called freezing of gait. And we really shouldn't call it freezing of gait necessarily, because there's lots of different body parts that can actually freeze, including speech, your actual thought processes while you're talking, your hands, and in some very severe cases, even walking while you're trying to cross a street or enter an elevator.
So what kind, I can't think of anything that would be more, just what a strange sensation that must be, just to physically not be able to move or not be able to speak. So what kind of therapy or treatment or anything is underway that can at least help alleviate some of that?
This is certainly one of the challenges that we've had, and we've had some success in trying to understand what really causes these issues in the first place. In some cases, we're realizing that there may be a perceptual or depth judgment issue in some of these patients. And in other cases, there's sensory impairments, so that if you're not aware of how far you're walking, then perhaps you don't realize when you're about to cross that elevator door, or how narrow the grocery store aisle is as you're walking down the aisle, and whether you're going to knock into the person in front of you. So by starting to understand some of these issues, we're now trying to design better spaces for people to live in, trying to figure out what sorts of cues can allow them to bypass some of these sorts of problems, and that's where the therapies have really come a long way in the last little while.
And they're helpful, I imagine. Again, we've mentioned there's no cure, but at least they make life livable, able to overcome some of these challenges?
Well, we've certainly had success on the therapy side of things, and recently Parkinson's, and it's great that we're talking about this during Parkinson's Awareness Month. Parkinson's was actually added to the list of prominent chronic conditions. So those usually include things like diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And just this year, Parkinson's was added to that list of disorders. So now we're working on even exercise prescription for these people in hopes that we can slow the progression of disease. And we're finally starting to see the hint of these sorts of therapies having some effect on the actual motor symptoms of Parkinson's, and not just well-being, but other sorts of things that are, perhaps more important to the patients.
And who's at risk, if we can even narrow it down? I mean, is it younger? Is it older? Is it male, female?
Yeah. In terms of male or female, there's not really a preference of one over the other. But it certainly is a disease of older adults. So as you progress beyond 40, every decade of age, you start to see an increase in the population as to how many people actually have Parkinson's disease.
Okay, and is this something, are numbers kind of on the rise in terms of cases, or is this something that, it's not really showing any sign of slowing down?
No, and that's a really interesting question because, of course, we have better technologies now to be able to detect the disease in the first place. But at the same time, it is very possible that people are living longer and with better detection, and people also living longer. If we know that a disease increases with every decade of age, there's likely to be a higher incidence of Parkinson's as well. So it certainly is on the rise.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about some of the symptoms, and again, even though if there's no cause, is there anything that you can do to prevent it other than just be aware that it could happen? Are there preventative measures in place, or even possible?
Preventative measures is a tricky one, I suppose. Some of the research would say that the best way to try and solve some of these issues would be to look at genetic cases of Parkinson's, where you know that there's a very good likelihood of you actually developing the symptoms over time. And in those cases, we could try different treatments and things in advance. There's lots of things that are being tested right now. For example, coenzyme Q10, different forms of exercise that might be preventative in the first place. There have been even a couple of studies, although this is a difficult pill to swallow, that have argued that if you smoked in your earlier years, there's less chance of you having Parkinson's. But that doesn't mean you should go out and start smoking to try and prevent Parkinson's, of course.
No, because then you'll get other things.
Yes.
Right, So I guess in terms of research and kind of looking into the future, where do things stand there? Continue on with the center, and is a cure likely? Is it attainable? Is it going to take just more research, more funding, more work kind of on your part and your other colleagues?
Yeah, well definitely the funding would help. There's lots of treatments that we're working on. I know there's lots of talk right now about different surgical procedures. Stem cell, of course, is
which is something that's controversial, but
controversial, but potentially promising. With a lot of money invested into development of more research strategies, even on the exercise rehab side, there's certainly potential for the outlook to be better for people with Parkinson's disease. And
especially here, I mean, Waterloo Region is so renowned for so many different things, right? I mean, we talk about the tech industry all the time, and such a strong medical experience and people like yourselves. So, I mean, I would hope, if it is going to happen, it would be here that it would happen.
Yeah.
You yourself, you were recently chosen as the 2012 Early Career Distinguished Scholar for your work on movement disorders, including Parkinson. What does that distinction mean to you? And congratulations, of course.
Thank you. Well, it certainly means a lot. I've said to some of my colleagues that, to be nominated for a North American award, you don't assume that you're actually going to win something like that. But in reality, it's more about the number of people. If you think of all the patients, all of the students, really a university support network, all of these things together is what brings an award of that nature. So I don't really take the credit for it as much as all the people that have contributed to the successes of our center.
Well, congratulations to you and to them then, I will say.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time very much this evening. We do appreciate it, so thank you.
No problem.
I'm back. Thanks for watching Talk Local on Rogers TV. I'm your host, Haley Zimak. We have David Gilbert in studio with us. David, thank you very much for your time tonight. So just a few things that I've learned about you from a website that you gave me, that you're an avid water skier. You love boating, restoring boats. We talked about this on the phone. You love being outdoors. You have a trainer to keep your muscles strong. So all these things are amazing in themselves. And then we mentioned as well that you also have Parkinson's.
Right. Correct.
And there's a quote that I read that you said you have Parkinson's, that Parkinson's doesn't have you. So when we talk a little bit about everything else that you do and what your life is, if you could just explain to us what you mean, that yes, you have Parkinson's, but it doesn't have you.
Well, I truly do the best I can to tackle every day and make sure that I lead it to the fullest. I do have Parkinson's, and when I say Parkinson's doesn't have me, I mean I'm not going to give in to it. I'm going to work as hard as I can to maintain the quality of life I have, and a lot of that is basically, I think, through exercise.
Yeah.
And making sure that my muscles are
Stay strong and
stay
healthy.
strong, and although it does, they do get stiff in the morning and that kind of thing. I try to work and stretch them as much as I can. That's what my trainer does too. So,
which I mean, almost everyone should do, just in regards to a healthy, active lifestyle, right?
I really think so.
Yeah.
I really think so.
Yeah.
It's it takes a commitment. You got to do it 2 or 3 times a week, but I always feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
Always, you know.
Take us back a little bit. 2006, when you were first diagnosed, did you have any idea what was going on? Did this come as a surprise, a shock?
Well, I had quite a pain in my shoulder, and I thought it was a sports injury of some kind, but it just kept being, it was there all the time. And I went to a number of sports medicine clinics and had different things tested, and they said, no, it's not the muscle. And eventually, and apparently this is the way they determine if you have Parkinson's or not. It's a case of eliminating a bunch of other problems or potentials, and then zeroing in and saying you have Parkinson's. And so it was actually a bit of a relief to know that I had it, just because I knew I could deal with it.
Right.
It was something I could deal with.
Yeah.
Before that, I didn't know what I was dealing with.
Just a persistent pain, something that just kept gnawing at you, that just didn't go away.
That's
okay.
right.
And since then, I mean, how are you now compared to how you were? Are you? Would you say you're more active, or?
No, I don't. I can't really say that. I'm not 100%, but I'm not far below that. I think that well, one of the things is that, and one of the first things that I noticed was that my arms weren't swinging when I was walking. So I have to concentrate on that. I have to focus on that. I have to make sure when I'm working on the treadmill that my arms are going back and forth, and that is something that I have to. I'm conscious of. I have to deal with and focus on it. My voice is obviously a little more monotone than it used to be, and I also have a limited sense of smell.
Okay.
Which all these things came about pretty much about that time, 2006.
And since then to now, it's been 6 years. Have things stayed the same in that regard?
No, not really. I mean, it has changed, but it's not getting me that. I don't think, I don't feel that Parkinson's is slowing my lifestyle down as yet. My friends, I mean, I still can water ski. And
I think we have a picture of you water skiing,
Yeah,
actually.
I
We'll
do
try to
that.
get it up a little bit later.
I do that every year, and I used to teach it, and so it's just one of the things I really, really like.
Good, and it goes back to your quote, I have it, but it doesn't have me,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
I'm not giving up water skiing,
That's
something
right.
I love, and just being out in nature. People, I think, could really learn from that. Do you have other people with Parkinson's or other issues talking to you and gaining some even inspiration, I guess?
Well, I
could
do,
use the word.
and I quite honestly, I've got a few people in the Parkinson Society that call me up. I have one gentleman who lives in Teeswater, which is a farming community, and I met at one of the first conferences that we went to, and he said, you're a real inspiration to me, and I thought, wow, that's pretty neat. But he actually came down to visit me a couple of months ago, and just wanted to see how I was doing and how he was doing, and that's great. And I'll definitely do that with others if I have the opportunity.
I read when I was gathering research about this that it's sometimes called the silent disease because people are, I don't know if the word is embarrassed or ashamed or just don't really want to talk about it.
Well,
do you find yourself or others? Because I mean,
No.
something like this, something like anything, you can never be ashamed of something like this.
No, and at the minute I knew I had Parkinson's, I told every person, every relative I knew that I have it and I'm dealing with it. And I think that's the best way to deal with it. To just hide in a closet is not good.
No.
I mean, it's not going to be good for any of your bodily functions, your muscles or anything. And so I get it out, and then people will help you. They'll support you.
Yeah.
They understand and that kind of thing. I have a girlfriend who supports everything that I do, and it's just great that she does. And my kids, I have a daughter and a son, and they both always ask me how I'm feeling, what am I doing, and relatives and friends around me that just really supportive. And the Parkinson Society is similar in that it supports all its members as well. Anybody that needs help, they're there with guns blazing.
Good, and that's exactly what you need in a time like this, right? When you have to navigate it and go through it. So, David, you will stay in studio with us. We are going to talk more. We'll speak with the Parkinson's Society coming up a little bit later. We're going to talk more too about support and resources that are available, that are in place. So, welcome back. Thanks for watching Talk Local on Rogers TV. David Gilbert still in studio with us. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2006, and we're pleased to have Chloe Hamilton joining us as well. She's the facilitator for Kitchener Parkinson Support Group. So thank you both for your time this evening once again. Chloe, let's just talk a little bit about your role as a facilitator there. What do you do when it comes to helping people navigate Parkinson's?
We host a monthly meeting where members of the community who have Parkinson's, as well as their care or support system, so often a spouse, maybe an adult child, are welcome to join us for a meeting. And it's an opportunity for people to get together, talk to other people who are also experiencing very similar circumstances, and put minds together, learn from each other. I also pull in guest speakers who can talk to various topics that are related to Parkinson's, and we all learn from that.
And I asked David earlier, just because I'd read somewhere, I heard somewhere that it was the silent disease. Do you find that at all, or is this a group of people that are very much open and sharing and talking and water skiing like David here?
Oh, definitely everyone in the group has a very full life. They still maintain all the activities that they can. Whether or not they speak openly about Parkinson's, I think, is a very personal choice. It really depends on the individual. It isn't uncommon to find that the care partners often do all the speaking.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon for someone with Parkinson's to respond to a question by looking over their shoulder and allowing their spouse to answer.
Okay.
And through the support group, we encourage people to take the time to answer themselves. Ask the care partner to step back for a moment and allow their loved one to do the talking. And when we split them into 2 groups, then we really see people come alive, and those with Parkinson's communicating with each other and finding out what works the best, what are some of the coping mechanisms that have really made a difference.
Okay, can you speak on that a little bit, David? You mentioned you have a girlfriend who's very supportive. Was that the type of situation that there was with the 2 of you when speaking about this?
Well, I make sure that I am the spokesperson.
Okay,
No,
taking charge here. He's the
yes,
boss. For
yeah,
you.
that's right. No, she just encourages me and pushes me, and that helps. I wouldn't say that I found that that she needs to be at my side all the time, but I pretty much do what I do myself.
Okay.
And I live on my own too. So at this point in time, and she lives in her place too. So it's kind of a good arrangement for a lot of reasons.
Good. There you go. Do you or have you taken advantage of support groups?
Yes, I have been to a number. I've been to Chloe's support group and found that actually. I was there that time that you had a masseuse there.
Oh, yes.
And she spoke about it. That was one of the times. Spoke about how she had concentrated on Parkinson people. Okay. And so I went to see her, and I'm actually a regular customer of hers now.
Oh, great. And that's just the things you want to hear, right? When you have a guest speaker or someone in that people are actually following through and taking advantage of some of those people that they're meeting and they're learning about.
We get that feedback quite a bit. The guest speakers that come to our group, it's amazing to hear later that people say, oh, I'm so glad you brought whatever speaker in. They were just wonderful. I've been to see them, and it's made a difference. And that, you're right, that's exactly what the point of the group is.
Are there enough, we always talk in terms of funding and research, and we discussed that a little bit already, but are there enough resources? Are there enough places for people to go who want more information or who want just someone to talk to dealing with Parkinson's?
Well, I think as somebody with Parkinson's, I think there's quite a bit of information available.
Okay.
And lots of people that will assist, will help guide you to the answer or deal with or explain what's going on with a certain symptom. And there's the conferences that the Parkinson's Society put on, literature, people that they have that are very knowledgeable. So yeah, it's. I think there's plenty, but I mean, we could always use more, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you think? I mean, so far, what's the feedback or the reaction that you've had? I mean, it's enough for people.
Often we hear the feedback, it's more about the medical side of things, that it's the difficulty accessing a specialist or finding a neurologist locally, and that's difficult because there's no way that we can tackle that through a support group or even through the Parkinson Society. Their mandate isn't to provide medical care. So sometimes we hear more about the medical care than the social element. I think that there is a fair bit of support through the Parkinson Society that people can be in touch and they really go out of their way to get answers for people and put them in touch with the right resources.
And even that, it's still nice just to have that community, isn't it, where you can just vent and you can gripe and you can share information. And again, going back, Chloe, what are some of the reaction that you're getting from people? We're talking about they're following through, they're going with specialists or speakers. Are they generally okay with talking about it, and do they leave feeling better, feeling satisfied?
It's a very hopeful group. Our group is very positive, and we often do discussion groups as well where we'll have the care partners in a group and we'll have those with Parkinson's in a group sharing best practices, and they are the guest speakers. They are the best people to share the tips and the advice, and sometimes it's the simplest thing that comes out, oh, well, I just do this, and the whole room says, oh my goodness, if only I'd known. And that little takeaway is so worthwhile. And it's the support for both sides. The frustrations are very different between those who have Parkinson's and those who are trying to be a care partner and a support system. And allowing each to learn from a group of peers is really important.
Right, that's a great point. Just wrapping up, David, I guess what would you've been called an inspiration, you're certainly inspirational sitting here and just discussing this now. What would you like people to know or to take away, whether this is something they're going through themselves or they have a family member or...
Well, I think the outside person, the person that is not terribly familiar with Parkinson's just needs to understand that these people need encouragement and they need support. Actually, caregivers, the same thing, or we as patients,
that they need help as well.
We as patients need that, and we need to stay active too. That's the other thing.
Well, you're definitely an advocate for exercise, and
yeah, I'm not going to stop.
No,
good for you.
Good for you, and that's the attitude, right? Is that an attitude that you hear? Just
Definitely
keep it going, stay strong. Parkinson's, I have Parkinson's. Parkinson's does not have me, right?
You got it.
All right, I love that quote. Okay, David Gilbert, thank you so much for joining us this evening and sharing your story with us. We really do appreciate it. Chloe is going to stay with us in studio. We're going to speak with Jessica Graham, and we're going to talk with Tara as well, the manager at Voila Salon Uptown. And we're also going to check in with our videographer, Sarah Manette, who checked in at Balalo's Cut-a-thon, which was part of their fundraising. We'll be back. Hi, welcome back. As we've been discussing, April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and the annual Cut-a-thon is both a lot of fun and a way to give back. Here's Sarah Manette now, who spent her Sunday at Balalo's.
On April 29th, the clients at Balalo's Hair Artistry and Spa lost a few inches for a good cause while treating themselves to a fresh new look.
Today I'm out supporting the Cut-a-thon, which is the money made today is going towards Parkinson's. And it's something that my daughter and I have done for many years, and my mom moved to town last year, so we brought her along with us as well.
I came with a friend of mine who's been to the Cut-a-thon previous years, so basically to support Parkinson's research and also to try out a new salon and see where I might get a different haircut.
I've actually supported the Parkinson's Cut-a-thon for a number of years. I used to live in London where it first started, so I've actually been going now almost 10 years to this Cut-a-thon. So it's a really good cause to support, and it's a great day to come out.
Today we have all the staff coming up on Sunday for a Cut-a-thon for Parkinson's. We have about 6 stylists in today on a Sunday. And we're getting to meet new clients and new people for a good cause. We're having a full consultation with our clientele. We're getting to know them, seeing what their needs and wants are, and then basically give them a new spring look. You know, spring and summer is around the corner, so we're here to show them a new style and how to take care of them.
This is Balalo's second year involved in the Cut-a-thon, and co-owner Michael Zedadine says it's a great way for them to give back.
This is actually our second year we did it. We find when you become a hairdresser, you get really close with your clients. We have many clients of ours who are involved directly with Parkinson's, or their friends do have Parkinson's. So we're out here to show the beauty, help them out, and it's for a good cause. So we become really close with our clients. So this kind of thing we pay it back forward to them.
The Parkinson Society of Southwestern Ontario arranges and schedules the clients, and the staff here at Balalo's takes care of the rest.
We were dealing with Cut-a-thon with Parkinson's, and they take care of all the arrangement with bringing in the clients and taking care of the payments. So we come here and we bring our talent and take care of everybody.
From having a family member struggle with the disease to supporting the science and research behind finding a cure, the clients at Balalo's all had their own reasons for getting involved.
My grandfather had Parkinson's disease. He had it towards the end of his life, and although I didn't get to spend much time with him, he lived in a different country. When I first heard about the Cut-a-thon and the money was going to Parkinson's, it was a way for me to connect with him.
I'm a research scientist at the university, so I like to support scientific research, and so it's nice to get out for a good cause.
I was just curious. I lived in London and heard about it at one of the salons and had a really good time, and as I said, it's a good cause, so I just continue to come back.
In Kitchener, I'm Sarah Manette for Talk Local.
Okay, and that's what we want to hear, people having a good time. We have Chloe Hamilton still in studio with us, Jessica Graham as well, Associate Community Development Coordinator for Waterloo Region for Parkinson Society Southwestern Ontario, and Tara Baranka, Manager at Voila Salon Uptown. So thank you ladies for joining us. Tara, you had your own Cut-a-thon as well yesterday. Great turnout. Tell us about it.
Yes, it was an awesome turnout. We had 64 clients through the doors. We raised about $2,500. I had 8 stylists that had 8 clients all day. It was probably our biggest year, and that was just this location. We have 3 salons, so I also opened another salon. So I'm anxious to hear how they did.
And this was your 6th year?
It's my 6th year
participating.
Yep.
So why participate? Why is it so important to give back and to take part in something like this?
I think it is because I've worked at Voila for 17 years and I'm part of the community. And basically it started with someone coming in and asking me if we could volunteer and do this. And when I went around to all the staff, they all said yes. So it's sort of been, something that we look forward to every year. I've learned more about this disease. I haven't personally been affected, but I've learned so much about it, and you just play it forward. We can help out, and why not? It's a fun day.
Sure. No, it sounds like a lot of fun. And Jessica, going to you then, what is it like when it comes to community support for something like this? I mean, Tara just said it really, I haven't been affected personally, but I know about it now. I learned about it now. Is that what, Parkinson's Awareness Month is really all about?
Yeah, it really is. And we go to, I think we had about 11 to 12 salons this year. And then we also have connections with other in-home care service companies like Chloe's and different people just across the region that really partner with us to help us to continue to provide people with Parkinson's the services and the different things that they need. And
what's the main goal, or several goals, I guess? I mean, I understand that you're working towards a lot of different things. I mean, is it a set monetary goal? Is it making sure people are educated and aware? What is it?
Well, when we look at Parkinson's Society Southwestern Ontario, our 4 pillars are support services, education, advocacy, and research. So when we go about doing the different things that we do, we really try and support those 4 pillars. The support services, making sure that people living with Parkinson's have what they need, the information, resources. We hold 2 conferences each year, one in the spring, one in the fall. We actually have one coming up the fall in Kitchener-Waterloo this year. And when we look at education programs, getting out to long-term care homes, retirement residences, training people on how to deal with Parkinson's, how to treat people living with Parkinson's. Obviously research, partnering with Dr. Almeida with the Movement Disorders Clinic. That has been huge, and we serve the same clients. So connecting with him, partnering with him, all easing the burden and finding a cure for Parkinson's.
So you do a lot, is what I think you're saying.
Yes.
Chloe, Jessica had a good point there, and we spoke a little bit to David about it. How important is it when we talk about quality of life and not giving up and letting people know that there are options and resources available?
It's absolutely crucial because people want to remain living independently for as long as possible, and that doesn't necessarily mean doing everything by yourself, but it does mean being able to choose the lifestyle that suits you, getting the help that you need in place, that the person with Parkinson's is well supported, but so is their support network, that their family isn't burning out while trying to help them to remain living at home.
And Tara, again, going back to your point about you haven't been affected directly, but now you know about it. Was that kind of, I guess, with your staff and some of your clients, was that the same type of attitude? Like, I might not necessarily know someone who lives with Parkinson's, but hey, let me come in, have a good time for the cut-a-thon and give back.
Absolutely. I mean, with the staff, I think we've met so many people with now Parkinson's. We've all been educated. I still have clients that when I started 6 years ago and learned more about it. And no, I think it's just a great thing, and I think this is something new that was for all of us, and we enjoy doing it every year.
And next year?
Absolutely.
There you go. That's what you want to hear, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, we're going to continue on with our conversation. Thank you for watching so far. We have one more segment left. Again, as we've been talking about, April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, so we're going to continue our conversation. Hi, welcome back. Thanks for watching Talk Local on Rogers TV. It is Parkinson's Awareness Month. Chloe, Tara, and Jessica still in studio with us. So, Jessica, let's talk a little bit, and we were talking to Dr. Almeida about this. So, Parkinson's, it is something that's on the rise. Like, we know this is something that is not going away. What are the numbers like here locally?
Yeah, so if we look at Canada as a whole, we have about 100,000 people across Canada diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And right now we're looking at the incidence doubling by 2016. So we're looking at about 200,000 people across Canada living with Parkinson's. And when we look at Southwestern Ontario as a whole, we have about 9,000 to 10,000 people living with Parkinson's disease. And specifically in Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, Brant, Norfolk area, we have a high concentration of people living with young onset. And what that is people who have been diagnosed in their 30s, 40s with Parkinson's.
And obviously with no cause, there's no really way to determine why this is, right? It's just
Exactly, and that's what makes it hard.
Yeah.
We can look at the numbers and see that it's going to rise, and us as a society can look at that and try and figure out what we can do for people. Looking at the different support from the community is huge, because just in the last 4 years, our services, or the need for services, has increased about 70%. So, with no government funding, we are looking to our community, to our supporters, to help us to provide, these different things for these people living with Parkinson's.
And what do people need? I mean, what are some of the obvious basics that stick out? People living with Parkinson's, what do they really need?
So when we look at it, maybe if they can't necessarily get into their neurologist right on time, like Chloe was mentioning before, or their doctor, what can they do before they, while they wait? We have a nurse clinician at the London Health Sciences Centre that is there all the time for people to call in and ask questions and that sort of thing. Our education is huge. Like I mentioned, our conferences, that is a great way for people to come and be educated. And that's the biggest thing with Parkinson's, is to understand what you're up against and understand what you can do to not necessarily cure it at this point, but to slow the progression of it, to live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, and I mean, talking to David was such an inspiration, right? I mean, he's diagnosed 6 years ago, and he's water skiing and he's out in nature. Is that something that you want people to take away when we hear someone like that, or when there's conferences, or you go on TV and talk about it? Is that one of the messages that you want people to get?
Definitely. What people like to say is, I can do anything you can do, but slower. Or like we encourage that I have Parkinson's, but it doesn't have me.
Right.
Parkinson's does not have to be life-ending. It may be life-altering, but continuing those activities and having that positive mental attitude, as David has. And I think the biggest thing is getting over the first shock of being diagnosed and coming to terms with that individually. As Chloe mentioned, it's a very individual thing to kind of come to terms with that. But once you do that and take the steps that you need to take, we're there, as David said, we're there to support people in the region and to be that for people.
And Chloe, that's something that you do, and again, you encourage people to talk about it, right? To share and to have their spouse there for support.
That's right, and to still enjoy all the activities that you can. You may need to modify an activity, but it doesn't mean you have to give it up altogether. And it doesn't mean you can't stop trying new activities. Some of the members in our group have found new hobbies at this stage in life that they didn't know that they could enjoy. One member took up painting, even though he has quite a severe tremor. He started painting and discovered that as soon as he has that paintbrush in his hand, he's perfectly still.
And that's exactly what Dr. Almeida was saying. If you put your hands out or you hold something, it stops. So
that's right.
Isn't that amazing? Jessica, you mentioned community support, people being behind you. Tara, let's just speak again, just for people who are just joining us. You, like many other salons, including Balalo's, had a cut-a-thon, and just how was that support and that reaction from people who were coming in?
Oh, it was just fantastic. And we had one lady in particular, she booked 16 spots. Oh, wow. And so, we're under her name. And these women came from all over the place. Markham, Listowel, Hanover. And what they did is that they came to get their hair done, and it was a beautiful day yesterday. And they all went shopping, and they all went out for dinner.
Great.
So it was really nice to meet them, and they were all very positive. And for us, we were now meeting other people outside of our community as well. Right? We've been around for a long time, so it's really nice. These aren't our normal clients. So we've, really touched lives, and it's been great.
Yeah, definitely, and just bringing people together.
Absolutely.
So the cut-a-thon may be over, but I know you mentioned there's the conference in September, right? What else is coming up, Jessica, that people can get involved in?
Yeah, our biggest event that we have is our Super Walk, and that takes place September 8th in Kitchener at Victoria Park, September 9th in Cambridge at Riverside Park, and that is a great day. It's a lot of fun. Tons of people come out to support Parkinson's. We do a walk around the park, just raising money, raising awareness, and just being alongside those people. And we like to say that we're walking alongside walking alongside them. So we look at it as a walk.
Symbolic as
yeah,
well,
a symbolic
right?
walk,
Yeah.
really to show people the support.
And that it can be done.
Exactly.
You know, you don't have to walk, of course, but you don't have to not walk either. There's so many people with their therapies and their support, and you know, I've learned so much just in this hour, right? Just talking to you and our other guests. So it's really inspiring to know that you can keep going and you can lead a full and a happy life.
Yeah, you really can.
For that walk, do people need to register? Do they drop by? We just have about a minute left, so if you can just give us kind of some of that contact information and how people can...
www.superwalk.ca is a place to sign up. Just find your area, your walk, and register.
Okay, do you have to raise a certain amount of money? Or
$50 to get a t-shirt.
$50 for a t-shirt. Okay, good deal. All right, Jessica, Chloe, and Tara, thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching at home, and you can join us tomorrow evening. We are discussing kids programming. Of course, summer is soon upon us, so we'll talk about kids programming, things to do in the region with the little ones, as well as what gets cut when it's budget time. So we will talk about that tomorrow night. We'll see you then.